Keeping up with crypto these days, it's like drinking from a fire hose, isn't it? Every time you think you've got a grasp on things, something new pops up.
Oh, tell me about it. It's nonstop.
That's exactly why we do these deep dives, though, right? To zoom in on what truly matters in this whirlwind of a space.
Absolutely. Cut through the noise, make sense of it all.
Exactly. And today we've got 5 key areas we're going to untangle.
5. Okay, lay 'em on me.
First up, the growing buzz around these Ethereum staking ETFs. Now, for anyone just tuning in who might be newer to the crypto world, an ETF is essentially a basket of assets that you can trade on regular stock exchanges. And staking, well, think of it like earning interest by letting your crypto do some work, securing the network, basically.
Right, like putting your crypto to work. Got it.
Okay, then we've got Bitcoin taking a bit of a dip recently, dropped below $84,000. So we're going to explore what that might signal about its whole safe haven reputation. Is it really digital gold or just another volatile asset?
Always a hot topic.
We'll also be diving into Pakistan's decision to legalize cryptocurrency. Could this be a major domino falling for other countries, particularly in emerging markets? Definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, big implications there potentially.
Then we've got the launch of something called Liquid Ron on the Ronin Network, opening up some very interesting DeFi that's decentralized finance. By the way, possibilities.
DeFi is getting pretty exciting for sure. Lots of innovation there.
And finally, we'll wrap things up by looking at the beta release of the Ronin Web wallet. Could this make getting into Web3 a whole lot simpler?
User-friendliness is key, isn't it? If we want wider adoption, things need to be easy.
Couldn't agree more. And what's fascinating about all of this, these aren't just isolated events. They're all intertwined, painting a bigger picture of where the whole crypto landscape might be heading.
It's all connected. You start to see the trends emerge when you look at things as a whole. That's what I find so fascinating.
So let's jump right in, shall we? Starting with those Ethereum staking ETFs, things have really been heating up on that front lately. We've even got BlackRock, one of the giants in traditional finance, coming out and saying, hey, staking's pretty cool. And then just recently, the New York Stock Exchange filed to actually let Bitwise's ETF earn those staking rewards. This feels significant.
It is. I mean, when you've got institutions like BlackRock taking notice, and then the NYSE, basically the heart of traditional finance, taking steps to accommodate these crypto-specific mechanisms, that tells you something. It's not just a fringe thing anymore.
Right. It feels like a real step towards, legitimizing this whole concept of staking within the mainstream financial world.
Exactly. Because up until now, staking's been happening primarily within the crypto ecosystem itself, DeFi, all that. But this potentially opens the door for traditional investors, those who maybe aren't comfortable dabbling directly in DeFi, to get in on the action.
So what's the real takeaway here for our listeners? Why should they be paying attention to these ETFs?
Well, imagine this. You own from Ethereum, right? But you don't want to mess around with all the complexities of decentralized finance. An ETF could let you earn those staking rewards through a familiar, regulated investment vehicle. It's like getting dividends, but on your crypto.
Right. It's like a more accessible entry point for earning yield on your Ethereum. And you mentioned this earlier, it could also potentially have an impact on volatility, right? If we've got these big players staking for the long haul, does that take some of the trading pressure off the market?
That's the thinking, yeah. If a big chunk of Ethereum is locked up in staking, it shrinks the supply available for active trading. And when supply goes down,
Price tends to go up or at least stabilize a bit.
exactly. Plus, if you're staking, you're probably not planning to sell anytime soon. It implies a longer-term investment horizon. So yeah, theoretically, it could lead to less erratic price swings over time. But, and this is important, markets are complicated beasts. Other factors can always come into play, so it's not a guaranteed volatility killer.
Here's where things get really interesting, though. Let's say these ETFs get approved and take off. Could we actually see Ethereum's image change? Instead of being viewed primarily as a speculative, high-risk asset, could it become more like a core financial holding, something akin to, say, a dividend-paying stock or a bond?
That's the potential we're talking about. If Ethereum can provide a relatively stable yield through staking, especially if it's easily accessible through familiar products like ETFs, it becomes less about just betting on future price increases and more about generating ongoing returns. That aligns it much more closely with how traditional investors view established asset classes.
Fascinating. A potential fundamental shift in perception. Okay, let's pivot now and talk Bitcoin. We saw the price dip below $84,000 recently amidst all the, global tension happening. And this always rekindles that debate. Is Bitcoin truly a safe haven, digital gold, as some call it, or is it just reacting to global anxieties like any other risky asset?
It's a question worth revisiting, for sure, especially in light of the current market behavior. It's interesting to see how institutions seem to be treating Bitcoin similarly to how they're treating equity stocks during times of uncertainty. They see a potential for things to get rocky, so they sell off what they perceive as riskier assets. And right now, for many, Bitcoin still falls into that category.
So in the short term at least, it's not acting like a safe haven. It's moving in the same direction as traditional markets, not against them.
That's how it appears right now, yes. But it's important to remember that Bitcoin has a history of bouncing back strong after these dips. Over and over, we've seen significant drops followed by equally significant recoveries. That suggests there's a persistent demand, a belief in its long-term value that isn't going away.
True, those pullbacks are often followed by some pretty impressive rebounds. But what about that bigger vision of Bitcoin as digital gold? That idea that long-term it'll be a true safe haven in times of global crisis. Is that still a valid narrative?
Well, the longer-term argument rests on continued widespread adoption. If more nations, companies, even these ETFs we were discussing, start holding Bitcoin, if its use becomes truly global, then its inherent scarcity and its decentralized nature, the fact that no single government or entity controls it, could make it a very attractive hedge against the inherent risks within traditional financial systems. Now, this decoupling from traditional market behavior, it's not going to happen overnight. But broader adoption is the key.
So while we should expect some bumps along the way, some continued short-term volatility as Bitcoin finds its footing, the potential for it to become that reliable safe haven, that digital gold, it's still there?
I think that's a fair assessment, and as more major players in finance start to truly understand its unique properties, we could see that transition happen more rapidly.
All right, let's shift gears now and look at a development that's caught my eye. Pakistan's decision to legalize cryptocurrency. This feels like it could have major ripple effects, especially when you think about the potential impact on emerging markets.
It's definitely a bold move. For a country like Pakistan, a major player in South Asia, to create a clear regulatory framework for crypto, it sends a strong signal. It says they're serious about embracing the potential of digital assets, about attracting foreign investment, about fostering innovation. And for you, following global economic trends, this is a big deal.
And it's not just about Pakistan, right? The implications could extend far beyond their borders.
Absolutely. Pakistan legalizing crypto could really legitimize the whole space in the eyes of other countries and the region countries that might have been hesitant to embrace it before. It could even encourage them to reevaluate their own policies, potentially leading to a wave of friendlier regulations across South Asia.
And think about the potential social impact, too. Pakistan has a large, unbanked population, people without access to traditional financial services. Could crypto offer a solution there?
It's a real possibility. Imagine those who've been excluded from the traditional banking system suddenly having access to financial tools through cryptocurrency. It could be a game changer for financial inclusion, for economic empowerment, especially in emerging markets. And if Pakistan's approach proves successful, it could be a model for other nations facing similar challenges. Imagine a domino effect. One country embraces crypto, then another and another.
Now let's dive into some of the exciting developments happening within specific blockchain ecosystems, starting with the Ronin Network and their launch of something called Liquid Ron. Sounds like a big step forward for DeFi on their platform.
It is. Ronin's really pushing the boundaries here. Liquid Ron is all about giving users more flexibility. It lets them stake their Ron tokens, remember staking, putting those tokens to work for the network, but without losing the ability to use those tokens elsewhere. It's a big deal in the world of DeFi.
Okay, so usually when you stake your crypto, it's locked up, right? You can't really use it for anything else. How does Liquid Ron change that?
Exactly. The magic here is that when you deposit your RON to stake it, you get back an equivalent amount of something called LRON, a liquid token. This LRON, it represents your staked RON, but it's freely tradable. You can use it in all sorts of DeFi activities on the Ronin network. You can swap it on decentralized exchanges, use it as collateral to borrow other assets, even lend it out to earn even more yield.
So you're earning staking rewards on your original RON, but you also have this LRON token that you can put to work in other DeFi protocols. That's pretty clever.
It is, and to make things even easier, the staking rewards on your original RON get automatically restaked for you. You don't have to constantly monitor and manually reinvest them, which can be a real hassle in traditional staking.
So it's all about simplifying things, making it easier for users to maximize their returns.
Exactly. That's the key in DeFi: flexibility, capital efficiency, ease of use. And that's what Liquid RON brings to the table. It makes Ronin a much more attractive platform for developers to build on and for users to engage with.
And speaking of making things user-friendly, let's talk about Ronin's new web wallet, which is currently in beta. This seems like another important piece of the puzzle in making Web3, the whole decentralized internet thing, more accessible to everyday users.
Absolutely. It all comes down to user experience. The Ronin web wallet, it's all about simplifying things, making it super easy for people to manage their crypto assets and interact with everything happening on the Ronin network.
So instead of needing like separate browser extensions or going through a complex setup
You
process,
can just access everything through a clean, intuitive website. That's the idea. The wallet's got a nice, straightforward dashboard for managing all your stuff, easy access to games and DeFi applications built on Ronin, even integrated news updates so you can stay informed about what's happening in the ecosystem.
all in one place. Sounds pretty convenient.
It is, and they've also added support for managing multiple addresses, super helpful for those who might have different wallets for different purposes, like keeping their gaming assets separate from their DeFi investments, for example.
Yeah, that's a nice touch for those who are more actively engaged, but overall, it seems like the goal here is to lower the barrier to entry, right? To make it easier for those who might be brand new to Web3 to dive in and start exploring.
That's exactly it. User experience is everything when it comes to mass adoption. The smoother the onboarding process, the more likely people are to stick around and become active participants in the ecosystem.
So wow, we've covered a lot of ground today. From Ethereum staking ETFs and the changing landscape of traditional finance to Bitcoin's price swings and its evolving role as a potential safe haven, to Pakistan's groundbreaking decision to legalize crypto and the exciting DeFi advancements and user experience improvements coming from the Ronin Network. It's been a whirlwind.
It has, but there's a common thread through all of this, isn't there? A takeaway for our listeners. It's this. The crypto world is in constant, rapid evolution, and it's not just about price speculation anymore. It's about how institutions are engaging with the digital assets, how emerging markets are incorporating them into their economies, and the relentless pace of technological innovation happening at the blockchain level innovation that's improving usability, creating new financial opportunities, and shaping the very fabric of how we interact with the internet.
Absolutely. Whether you're a seasoned crypto investor, a developer building in the space, or just someone curious about how this technology is changing the world, this is a space worth paying attention to. It's dynamic, it's transformative, and it's happening right now.
And that brings up a question for you, the listener, to ponder. We're seeing this convergence of forces. Traditional finance embracing crypto in the West, emerging markets integrating it in the East, and blockchain technology itself evolving at a rapid pace. So what will the long-term consequences be? How will this impact the global financial landscape? How will it affect the accessibility of Web3, of a decentralized internet for everyday users? It's something to think about, to watch unfold.
Lots to ponder. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious.
Stay curious.